Hello there, GCSEers. Okay, again we're going to start off our next video with this picture. And if you remember, it's a picture that particularly I want you to focus on the idea of I was in prison and you visited me. Now, it's the parable of the sheep and the goats, and I'll ask your teacher to go over it in class, what it actually means, because it's important that you know about I was hungry and you fed me, thirsty and you gave me a drink, and how that can influence you in a lot of your lessons in the morality section of the course. But today I really want us to focus on this one here. I was in prison and you visited me. Now this is a Christian teaching. I was in prison and you visited me. And today we're going to look at this idea of prison reform. And here you can see a £5 note, something that you should be quite used to. I'm sure you've all had one of these in your pockets. Very nice one, this one. But this lady here I want you to particularly look at. Her name's Elizabeth Fry. And she was a member of the Quakers, a Christian organisation. And using her faith, she actually, in the Victorian times, she actually changed how prisons were viewed in the world and what actually happened, not just in this country, but how they were viewed in the world. And how she believed that prisons should not be something for revenge and to get your own back, as we've looked at that one, but actually be something to reform people and to bring them back into society. And that's a really important thing for us to understand. And here you can see the picture. I was in prison and you visited me. And I just want you to remember some of the interesting prison facts that we looked at in our last video. 61% of prisoners reoffend within a year. It costs £45,000. Most prisoners are not a danger. Well, are prisons doing what we want them to do? Are they actually bringing back criminals out from crime and reforming them and making them better people? And if they're not, what can we do to help them? And particularly, we're going to look today at what do religious people do to help them? Okay, so does prison work as a deterrent or a reform? And still looking at that quote, many Christians believe prisons should be reformed. Prisons today should be reformed to actually bring people back. And some religious groups are the only people who go into prisons to actually help this to happen. Actually going in there and dealing with criminals and trying to help them become better people. And should prisoners be able to experience early release from prison and parole, where they go and see their parole officer? So early release, and this is very true nowadays. Prisoners are eligible for release, and if they fulfil certain criteria, for example, good behaviour, or they're no longer a risk to the public, and they're able to become law-abiding citizens. And a lot of them come out on parole, and the parole is there as if a prison sentence is less than 15 years, they can apply for parole, and then what they have to do is meet with their parole officer and check everything. When they come out into society, everything's working okay and everything's is doing well. Now I want us to particularly focus this week on this group here, this organisation here. They're called St Giles Trust, and when they were originally formed, they were a Christian organisation in London. They were formed in a chapel in London, St Giles Chapel. That's why they're called St Giles Trust. And you'll see from this video in a second what actually they do and what they did then. And they started off with a soup kitchen for homeless prisoners and things like that, and then they go into actually working with reform and how to reform prisoners. So just have a quick look at this film.
It's a family more than a work environment. There are people just all pulling in the same direction, all believe in the same work ethic.
At the moment, I may be at my lowest point in my life, but my life is looking up.
I had the opportunity to sort of step out the gates and not be scared, not be frightened about what lay ahead.
St Giles don't just give you have to work with them. They're there as a backbone, like a support, to keep you going, so you don't give up, because it's easy to give up.
St Giles Trust was founded in 1962. The following year, their first day centre for homeless people was opened by the Queen Mother in the crypt of St Giles Church in Camberwell.
You couldn't move in here sometimes, it was that busy. And you'd have people queuing all the way down there, just for soup,
Visitors could receive food, companionship, housing advice and healthcare. In 1995, Prince Charles opened the existing head office in Jordan House, Camberwell. By now, services have been expanded to include training and employment support, and perhaps most crucially, a housing casework service was begun within local prisons.
It means that prisoners are either keeping their housing or we're accessing housing for them on release. And, in terms of reducing reoffending, that That's the first stop. You know, if someone hasn't got a roof over their head, forget it. They're going to be back inside within days sometimes.
By the turn of the millennium, this work was developed further by training prisoners themselves to be caseworkers, able to deal with their fellow prisoners' support needs.
They wear a very distinctive red band, gates are open for them, they go and assess prisoners on the landings.
You know, the honesty that went with it was good for me, because, you know, I'd been a liar and a cheat most of my life, you know, and being in that surroundings where it was about helping people for the right reason was good for me.
You know, we're talking about pretty cynical people here that have never really thought about helping someone else. And I've seen those really hard guys, you know, move to tears but by dealing with our clients, you know, and for the first time in their lives thinking about that other person's life and what is it going to be like for that guy leaving prison.
It took me away from being a prisoner. And obviously that helped me in the longer run, you know, because I run a waste management company. I started it when I come out of prison. And now, sort of, you know, 9.5 years down the line, we've got quite a few trucks, you know, a yard, and I managed to sort of take my life back, so to speak. I realised that I could be one of them. I could be professional. I could sort of hold a job down, because at the end of the day, even though I was a prisoner, you know, it was a job. In the time I was there, they had a little party for me at the end, and which was quite moving. And they'd done a little plaque for me that I'd seen 255 people in the time I spent working for them. So the knock-on effect is huge.
In 2005, a Meet at the Gate service was set up to support people leaving prison and help ease the transition back into the community.
From the moment they walk out the prison gate, there's somebody there to, you know, assist them in their resettlement.
They were there from day one, from when I was released. It was amazing what sort of information they knew. They were on the phone sorting out a room for me for that night.
They'll take them along to their accommodation, they'll sort out their benefits. If they have substance misuse or mental health issues, they'll make sure they get along to those appointments. So for the clients, it means that they've got a holistic support network once they come out.
When I met them, I had nothing. You know, I had no home, I had no money, I had absolutely nothing. That feeling of nothing is a dreadful feeling to have. At the end of the day, without them, I'd still be in the gutter now.
If we can give them the best start, the chances of them succeeding and not reoffending can be greatly increased.
Alongside the work in prisons, a drop-in service for homeless people and those in need is still provided at the Camberwell offices.
Any day, every day is completely different. One thing you are sure of is you'll be busy.
When I went to St Giles, I spoke with Tyrone. He was the first person I actually spoke properly about my life situation. He was actually the first person that I told everything to.
90% of the people that come to us are in desperate need of help.
I don't know where I would have gone if St Giles wasn't there. When you're kind of vulnerable like that and you're homeless, you think no one cares. St Giles do make you feel like you are someone.
I think if St Giles didn't help me, I'd be on the street like so many other people. And even now, like when I'm in a hostel, it's still helping me like get ID and that, which I need to open like a bank account.
I feel there's light at the end of the tunnel. I can see a way where I can better myself. That's my next avenue to go through that, to get work, really. I want to get employed.
Nobody leaves here without having their situation move forward. It doesn't work like that. We make sure that you leave armed with more knowledge than you came in with.
Many of the staff and volunteers have been to prison themselves. This puts clients at the centre of the solution, and they are key to the delivery of the services.
The fact that St Giles helped me definitely plays a part in me wanting to be here and continuing helping others. And being in a situation where I can help those in situations that I'm quite familiar with is a good feeling. It also shows faith in people like myself who've got criminal records and a belief in us to deliver a service of the same quality that someone who doesn't have a criminal record. I thought I was on the scrap heap and they gave me an opportunity to prove that I did. You know, they just gave me an opportunity and I'm ever grateful for it. I'll never, ever forget that.
St Giles Trust has changed dramatically over the years, but essentially remains an organisation that helps people who fall through the gaps.
I nearly died through drinking, and I give my life to St Giles for that. Do you know what I mean? Because if it wasn't for them, I would have been dead by now.
We've been going for 50 years, going from sort of strength to strength. And right now, there's never been a greater need for St Giles Trust.
Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the reason why I've changed my life. If they wasn't in there and it was just a matter of being banged up, then the probability is that I would have probably kept taking drugs in there. My behaviour would have been pretty much the same. And then you're going to hit the street, and before you know it, you're back to where you started.
Because if I've got any chance of winning my family back, and that's my wife and my kids, who I love dearly, then I've got to stay the way I am.
It's not just like, oh, they house you and then that's it, you're on your way. They do actually stay with you until you're actually ready to move on from St Giles.
I think that St Giles Trust, no matter what the support need of the client is, we always find a way to support him. We go the extra mile.
People can change. And I think if you're not given that chance, how are you ever going to turn it round?
I went to prison for the first time when I'm 40 years of age, you know, and it's my last.
For someone whose life didn't start off too good, I aim to make it a good ending, you know, so...
The essentials, I only need to get carpet now. And a washing machine. That's the only thing I need to get. A washing machine and carpet and I'll be happy. And a wife. Sorry.
Okay, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think of that? Okay, you got prison reform there, St Giles's Trust. And the key thing really, I suppose, the key question I want you to ask is, are they doing the right thing? Do you think they're going into prisons and helping prisoners and then helping them upon their release to actually help them to reform and to get back into society? Or, the other question is, you know, can we really help people who break the law? Well, surely they're just going to break the law forever. So can we help them to reform, or should we just lock them up and throw away the key? Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think?